So my name is J.R. Logan. I'm the Executive Director of MakeHaven. And what we're here to share with you is this really exciting course, which I think really gets you to experience the heart of what MakeHaven is and all of the various tools, whether you're looking at it as a introduction, broad introduction to making, or a way to experiment and go deeper into areas that you just haven't had the opportunity to experience yet. So it's a very broad course in scope and in time. But before I go too far into it, I think what I'll do is share a screen, take you through some slides, just even introducing MakeHaven a little bit for those who don't know about it. And I'll turn to Corey, who's the instructor, and let him explain. And if Kate's available, I'll let her explain a little bit about her experience as she had participated in it last year. So without further ado, I will share my screen. All right. You should be seeing a screen here. And Corey, feel free to interject where you feel appropriate, but this course was designed to be a course for everyone, people of all different backgrounds, to introduce fabrication, and it was inspired by and could form a pre-course for a larger online course, which there's this Fab Foundation, a group of people which go really deep into how you apply these various skills.
Yeah, that's the Fab Academy is very intense. Yeah, Fab Academy, that's the name of that one.
Yeah, so all of these tools unlock your creative potential. It's with all of these pieces together, they are form more than they would in their individual pieces. So the course is very much, even though some people might say, I'm only interested in woodworking, or I'm only interested in metalworking or textiles, what we want to do is introduce a foundational level of knowledge and skill, so you at least understand what you can do in all of the different areas, so that you can later build on that and also understand when the best solution is something that is maybe not an area that you traditionally had a experience in. So at a very high level, the duration of the course is 40 weeks. The expected commitment is 10 hours per week, although a lot of the projects are independent, and so people would be ambitious about what types of projects they would do and be creative, and sometimes that trailed longer, but the target is to make it work within 10 hours per week. The cost is $1,500 for the course. There are some scholarships, and we work with people on where necessary, but there's also, you have to be a MakeHaven member so you can access the space. The size of the course will be about 8 to 15 students. It's a competitive application. We put it out there and look at what people seem to have the interest and the excitement to do it. And when you break it down, it breaks up into essentially some quarters. We cover the basics of woodworking, metalworking, electronics, textiles. We get into digital fabrication, 2D, 3D design, laser, water jet, 3D printing, electronics, wizardry with programming things, servers, building little circuit boards, even working with biotech and composite materials, and then building larger things, mechanical 3D printing, mold making, and casting. So there's sort of breakout of the different interest areas. The course is designed for adults. With all ages and backgrounds. You don't have to be experienced as an engineer or anything like that. You could be coming at it from a prototyping or from an art perspective. We want to be flexible so that you can be doing this while you're doing a full-time job. It is a significant commitment, but it's a commitment that's made to live well alongside family and other work commitments. No experience is required, but it's nice to have a little familiarity with some of the tools, or at least a level of confidence getting involved with various tools and learning how they work. But the most important trait is just your serious intention to complete the course and learn. So just MakeHaven, for those that haven't seen it, we're a community makerspace and Fab Lab. We really rely a lot on volunteers. We have 24-hour access. We have an online chat where we often are supporting each other and talking about how you can do things. We practice helping each other with various projects, whether it's for art or prototyping. We have a system of badges, which is where you earn like a skill badge that entitles you to use various tools. This is just the layout of the space so that you have the idea of what kind of facility you'd be coming to. It's broken up primarily into a metal shop, a fabrication lab, and a workshop. Then there's some other supportive spaces around it. These are some pictures first of the 3D printers, laser cutters, digital fabrication, the textile equipment that we have. Here's the metal working facility, lathe, water jet cutter, and so on. And our woodworking room, which is quite well completed. And we've even added a bio lab, which does basic bioscience. This is the visualization of part of the process that you do to get a badge for any tool. You'd watch a video, take a quiz, and then our volunteers help you to get started and okay you for those tools. So that gives you a sense of MakeHaven and a very high level of where the course came from and who it's intended for. I think that I will turn it over to Corey, who will give you a more in-depth insight into the course. Corey?
Sure. Is the feedback a little bit better? We're doing okay?
Yeah, I think it's better.
Good. Cool. So I think the next slide is about me, which is always interesting. So I'm a high school science teacher. Fundamentally, that's my day job. It's what pays the bills. But I also was a 2017 Fab Academy graduate, which means that I did the official big scary course from the Fab Foundation with a very low passing rate. I've been teaching in Fab Labs for a long time, and I've been coaching Science Olympiad, which is high schoolers trying to build nerdy things. And then also I have a master's in differentiated instruction, which is how you teach people with different backgrounds, which is a really important part of foundations because everybody's coming with a different background. I wrote a lot of the course content and have put it together over the past year with collaboration of the students. It really is a group learning experience, I think. But you can see the picture there on the top. That is last year's class. Just about everybody's in there. You can almost see who got it in the back. And then some high schoolers from a past life. But let's click on to the next one. Before you learn much about me, what's really probably most valuable is to learn about a student's perspective in the course. And so that's what Kate is going to add in for us. So I'll be quiet for a little bit. Go for it, Kate.
Hey everyone, I'm Kate, and I graduated from the first class of Foundations of Fabrication. And so I just wanted to show you a little bit of from my perspective, some things that happened. On this first slide, this is just an assortment of some of the things that I created over the course of the 40 weeks. This is not all of them, this is just some of them. So if you look, there is a stained glass piece that I created on our water jet. There's a table that I CNC'd on our Shipoko and later on our Gerber. There's some 3D design work that I did. There's vinyl cutting with registration, which is the little dancing Homer Simpson. My woodworking project was the wine bottle chandelier that you see. I made a t-shirt quilt, which is something I had been wanting to do forever. And one of my favorite things about this course is that I have a lot of little projects I've always wanted to do. And this kind of gave me the support and a deadline to actually bring them to a point where they were actually real things instead of just a list in my head. In the middle there is from our Community Bio Week. That's some of the DNA that we did with the extraction and replication that we did with the class, looking at some of our genes. The two t-shirts is from our Wearable Electronics Week. That's my party t-shirt that you can switch back and forth to say like I'm feeling introverted or extroverted for when you're around other people. And the camera in the corner there was from our circuit board and electronics section, and that was basically a light rig that reads a light, reads a color wheel, and so it allows you to project color onto what you're photographing on your camera. So those are just a collection of things that I happen to choose to work on. The other thing I wanted to talk about was sort of the different kinds of weeks. Corey will be going into that a little bit, but there's a few different ways that things can go. And so this was an example of one of our group labs. There was throughout the class, there was times when we would all come together, which is especially nice during COVID, that we actually got to be in person here and there with our masks and everything. And this was our composites week as an example. For those who were here earlier, you saw another piece that I did from that week. And this is where we would all come into the shop together. These were often a good fit for, we call them sort of the package projects. For people who, if you're not really familiar, I didn't have any real composite experience, so we all just did the same thing together. And so this was where we were taking bowls and plates and things like that, and then making a composite material with epoxy and fabric to create bowls and stuff out of other materials, which was really neat. On the next slide, you'll see another thing that came out was we had a couple wildcard weeks sort of spread throughout breaks between sessions kind of, and these were really good opportunities for us to get caught up if there was anything we didn't quite get to. Life happens, that's how this course is designed, and you understand that. Or if something wasn't exactly how you pictured it. So on the left there, you can see something that I had created that I was going to do when we were doing some of our electronics work with eWire. And it wasn't quite the thing that I wanted in the end. I did with the laser cut. I was happy with the first result, but in the middle was during the wildcard week, I played around with some of the other tools, working on the Shapogo, working with different things with the lasers, just to kind of reimagine that a little bit and to see if I could get what I wanted it to evolve into, which is on the end, working through failures to get a revision that you're happy with. So that was on the end, the final piece that I came up with there. So that was a fun opportunity. The wildcard weeks are also great chances to try out some other areas that may not be as covered in the class. Like I learned the acrylic bender one time and things like that. So that's kind of a fun way to explore. This is an example of the group projects, which happened at the end. These were really, really nice because it from two ways. I like that it gave everyone sort of had their chance to shine, which happened throughout the course. Some people were more comfortable in one area, some people were more comfortable in another. That was great to see throughout the course. And then that came together in the group projects where we had someone who was really good at working with electronics, someone who was really comfortable in the large CNC woodworking, and we could all work together to create a project. The other nice thing about working this group project setting was that if, for example, I really wanted to do more of the large CNC woodworking, but I wasn't quite comfortable attacking it on my own. And so by having the supportive group around me and having people who had some experience literally standing by my side, it was a way to kind of push deeper into that area. So most of what you're seeing here is a Zen table, basically, that we created. We repurposed a 3D printer and made it into a sand table that moves a magnet. So that was one of the group projects. The other group project that you see in the lower left corner, which was not my project, so I don't have as many pictures, but the other group did create a watering system for the space, which was also really cool, where it read plants, humidity, and added water to them. And then on this slide, this is just some kind of cool things that were somewhat unexpected that came out of all of the great work that happened over the year. In the bottom right corner, these are projects from other people in the class. In the bottom right corner, this is one of the students was converting a van into like a mobile tiny house. And so they decided to basically take most of the lessons that we had and integrated those into various projects for their band. So, you know, 1 week would be woodworking, it would be tabletop with the composites. You know, they poured a countertop. So there was all different kinds of neat ways that you can, if you have something like that, that can be driven and connect up there. In the lower left-hand corner, that is a cloud lamp that one of the students who has a strong artistic background, but she didn't have a lot of electronics background at all, and was actually a little uncomfortable with that. And this was an opportunity for her to get the support and be able to do this. And this became what you see here is this cloud lamp light that was commissioned and became a project where she worked with one of the local children's hospitals to make these kind of pretty cloud lamps for their hospital. And then up in the left corner, you see a tufted rug. The rug tufters, we hadn't really used much in the space. This was new to the space. A couple of the students in the class really enjoyed them, kind of took them to the next level, got really comfortable, got them used, and one of them is now teaching a workshop in that, which is really great. So those are just some examples.
All right, and that is great. Thank you for sharing, Kate. There's tons of cool stuff that we have done. We're going to mostly just try and cover sort of what we've got and sort of how it will fit into this year. We have somewhere in the ballpark for the whole course in general, there's about 900 slides of information that we'll have for you over the entirety of the course. And those are sort of adapted on the fly, right? We have them from last year. You can go look at them if you want. But we're going to update and repackage some of the lessons, things that we've learned from doing it the first time to make them better for the second time. We recorded our lessons last year. We're going to do the same this year just in case somebody has to miss or you're out or whatever. And so we'll record the lessons as much as we can. And then we have some like packaged lessons that we're also going to make sure that we have to make sure that these experiences go well for everybody who wants to be in the course. And another thing that we have is a website. But basically, you can see there's all of these resources that we're going to use. We'll have our weeks will sort of be anchored by this lesson at the beginning. So on a Monday night, and I think the next slide might be the schedule, or soon there's a schedule coming up. But we're going to anchor our time with a Monday sort of lecture, show and tell. And so that's where those lesson pieces, they come into play. There we'll be able to talk about what the concepts are that we really want to focus on throughout the week and identify what the assignments would be. And there's a lot of freedom for you to choose whatever assignment you want. But one thing we found through feedback is that often it's very helpful to have something that like in our back pocket, so that if you wanted to try something but you're not exactly sure what you'd want to try, we can have some items for you that are nice go-to projects. Where we say, here we have, these are the things you need to get, or here's a package deal we have, and you could pay a few bucks and go for it with this project. Then throughout the week, on Tuesday and Wednesday, I would reach out to people. You know, if you're in the class, I'm going to pester you a little bit, especially when we're in the beginning, to say, like, how you doing? Everything going okay? I'll message you through Slack and check in on you. But then on Thursdays and Sundays, I would come in for office hours. And a lot of the time, maybe Kate can verify, but a lot of the time students really enjoyed those office hours times. One, because it was a time to physically be together when, you know, that doesn't always get to happen. But then it was a good chance to sort of see what other people are up to, learn from them, try things out. If you wanted to try something, like let's say you needed to use the table saw, but you weren't totally confident in it, I would be there. So you could, I could help you if you wanted to get a little help using a machine or a tool. I would be around for those sorts of things. And hands-on collaboration is totally the best part of the whole thing. That's the best part of the whole class. Friday and Saturday, those sorts of things would continue, but I would make sure that I was here for Thursdays and Sundays, pretty much without exception, just to be able to be around as a support. Although one really cool thing that we saw last year, and we can't ever make this happen, but fingers crossed we hope for, is that the students would start to help each other, right? You become a sort of a class unit, a cohort, and then you're helping each other figure things out. If you're one of you's in the space and you need to help somebody out, you totally can. And so that's a really neat part of it. It helps bring the humanity in to all this as well. And so let's see. Yes, so going, just like if we were to ring through all of these different areas, we're going to talk about how you would document your work, and that's going to be a big part of the course, is to have a portfolio at the end. Kate did a fantastic job of documenting all of her work, and it's a lot of like take pictures and a few fun comments on it. We'll start off the course with an intro to woodworking, then we'll go into metalworking and textiles. We'll do sort of, and that hits the main 3 rooms of MakeHaven. So there's the wood shop, then there's the textile space in the middle, the digital fabrication area, and then there's the metal shop. So we'll sort of cover those big areas to get the big ideas across and give you an opportunity to collect some of those badges. And then we start to double down into what are the skills that you need to really excel in those places. So we'll go through sort of the project design piece. I think we're going to slide in printmaking in that week, maybe this year. And then we'll go through a digital fabrication section. So we're going to try and pop in and do some of the 3D design, 2D design. We're going to learn Inkscape and how that works well with vector cutting on a laser or on a vinyl cutter. We'll play around with 3D design and 3D printing, which is a really neat skill set. So CNC milling on the Shipoko, the small machine, and then the Gerber, the large machine, where you can cut out entire sheets of plywood. At some point later on, when we get to the large projects, it's neat. We'll have a Make Something Big week where you can make, Kate made that table, or you make a large piece of furniture. We made some little free libraries. And Ruby from last year made a giant block print. She's actually got one up and drying in the space right now if you were to come in and see it. We'll also have an electronics section. So there's lots of electronic skills that are really interesting. And this is one that sometimes people get a little trepidatious about the electronics, but it's totally like a wizardry skill. You can bring things to life if you can control it. And so we have some real guided lessons on your first steps in coding. How do you connect the electronics together? How do you make interesting projects that go with that? And there's a lot of really great tutorials. We can connect those dots. And one of the things about electronics is that it's often really helpful just to be able to bounce ideas off each other. Or if you found a tutorial that you like and you're working on and you get stuck, you can ask me a question and I can probably verify good idea, bad idea fairly quickly. So, and there's a lot of cases like that where just a little bit of extra support can really be helpful. And then, like Kate was saying, there's group projects towards the end where we're going to build some machines, sort of bringing all these skills together and bringing all the people together to make sure that these are experiences that really get to be shared towards the end, and that we can drive home that project integration process a little bit further. So let's see. Like we were saying, we're going to try and record all of our lessons and make sure that those are available. We have last year's posted on YouTube. We're going to rearrange a little bit. I'm already in the process of doing that. But we'll rearrange a little bit so that it settles into MakeHaven a little bit better. So we're going to make a whole new round of videos. Like we said, we're trying to have this be 10 to 15 hours a week. We like the 8 to 15 student class size. We think that the individual attention is really important. We're also hoping to get assistant instructors for parts of this to make sure that there's plenty of one-on-one time. 1 to 15 can be kind of big, but that's why we're trying to have as many people around as possible. And so at the end, we hope that everyone will get a maker certification with a lovely wax stamp on it, and to try and do that. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's the maker certificate. And so we made this in-house. We made the little stamp to go along with it for Made at MakeHaven, and so we hope that everybody can get one of these. Yep. But then also a portfolio is a big part of it, that you can show off your work with a portfolio, and it can be as easy as just like a photo album. And those are really great ways to have all of the different projects. And Kate, maybe you would speak just a tiny bit about how cool it was to roll back through your photos at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just say that was really, really cool. And we're looking at the best way that people can capture and document some stuff, because I was like, oh, I totally forgot I made a stamp, and there was just so much and so much growth. So it's pretty satisfying.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so let's go forward one more slide. Here's the tuition and scholarships. JR is very good at managing this, but it works out to, the 2,500 number is when you factor in the price for materials. We're expecting that you're gonna need to spend a little bit of cash on materials here and there, but you can be creative. There's definitely ways to make that much larger or much smaller, depending on how you're going. And then there is a need-based scholarships available. So we went through the schedule, we took a look at cost, and let's keep going forward. Here's a few things that as a teacher I just feel compelled to say. Some of you might be educators also. And so one of the things that we really feel is true in this course is that play is critical for learning. And so even as adults, it's important to be able to play a little bit with these skills and ideas. It sounds a little silly, but it's really important. We really believe in our show and tell with reflection to talk about what happened and what we learned throughout that. There's going to be lots of cases where I have a ton of experience and can help you, but there's also moments where just figuring it out together can be really valuable and add value rather than just getting a straight answer. Not that I will try and hide anything from you, to be clear. If I have an answer, I'll give it to you, but there'll be moments where we have to work through things together. And then we really like to try and emphasize the office hours, because those moments where you're able to work together are the most useful moments in really moving this all forward. And our goal is probably to try and maximize that amount of time throughout the year as we do this for round 2. We really love to let people have choice in how they showcase their skills. Like, if we're doing woodworking, it'd be great to see all sorts of creative woodworking projects. But it's a neat way to go. We really like to encourage growth in this class over achievement, so everybody can get better no matter where you start. Let's see. Next up, another thing this is what I have my teacher degree in, is differentiation. So everybody can move forward. This is the growth over achievement. Some people are going to have different backgrounds, right? You might come in with an engineering degree and do different work than someone who has an art degree in different fields, right? Different weeks, you'd be at different places. But we try our very best to make sure that we can get everybody from where they start to somewhere forward, whether it's practicing a skill, whether it's expanding a skill set. And that's something that we really feel strongly about. So we'll hopefully be able to work with each of you and have those conversations to make sure that you're supported in moving your skill sets forward. Then there's the certificate and some of these next steps. So the last bit is that we want to let you read through the content of the course. It's at makehaven.org/foundations. We're also going to make sure that we post, I think there's some schedules and things that we've just very recently sort of finalized, as much as those ever get finalized, that we'll make sure get posted nearby as well. There is the playlist on YouTube. If you have any questions, you could email me, corey.rice@makehaven.org. Or if you have questions for JR, you could email JR at jr.logan@makehaven.org. And then the last bit, and this is sort of the info session, is our big announcement moment for this is when we're going to open up the application process. And that would be at makehaven.org/foundations/apply. We'll try and put a call to action button on the Foundations website as well, so that we can get you there and you can apply. And then once those applications start coming in, we're going to start rolling through, making sure that we reach out. We'll have a short interview process with everybody who wants to apply, just to have a conversation and make sure that you understand that the 10 hours a week can be a lot, that we can work with you, that we make sure that we have goals that align. But that is going to be sort of the big next steps, is for you to take a look at all the content and then apply, and we'll reach out and have some conversations with everybody.
Great. Well, thank you, Corey, for taking us through that. Hopefully that answered many of the questions, but I wanted to open for any remaining questions and comments about this course, the application process.
Hi, I just have sort of some scheduling questions. Do you have like scheduled recesses where there are gaps, or is it just straight through?
Corey, you want to answer that since you put the schedule together?
I do. So there's many pieces to answering that question. First off, I'm trying to get it up on screen right now, just so that it's.
So, the short answer is that there are gaps that fit the for holidays and school schedule and that sort of thing. And it's running from mid-September to, looks like Corey's going to share the actual schedule.
Yeah, so this is still like not entirely locked down totally, but this is the actual schedule where we've got like, we start dates and then there's break weeks built in for holidays. And essentially it's going to follow the school schedule. I'm a school teacher. And so more or less it's going to sort of follow that mode. Like here's a wildcard week that happens to include sort of the Christmas time, New Year's holiday, because a lot of people have time off for that. There's also some of these breaks. One thing that we learned is that we want to have summarizing projects that come through. So it'll be a little bit more open-ended, but we'll have different weeks where there's a little bit of flex time. And those wildcard weeks are great opportunities where if you've got to have some time off, a break in what's going on, you can make it back in by using those wildcard weeks wisely, and we can support you in helping to get there.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out how to fit it around the rest of the many things I have to do, and that's,
Schedules are totally a real thing, and that's something that I think is a really important point for us, is to try and make sure that we can fit this work around real life schedules. Like we had multiple people change jobs during the course last year. We had people one person moved, I think, in the middle of it. There's all sorts of different things that happen in real life, and we want to try and make all of those fit with this. So, yeah.
Other questions?
Hi there. I was wondering, my name's Matt. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the difference between this and the Fab Academy programming. I'm curious where they overlap and how they relate to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So Fab Academy is in a lot of ways similar to our course, but that runs from January to early June, so it's half the time. It is far more intensive on electronics and code. And I would say basically if you wanted to take that class, you need to know how to 3D model, how to code in web things, and some C++ would be really helpful. And you need to know electronics, like just flat know those before you take the course. Whereas our course is meant more for like an introduction to those skill sets so that you could get going. And I am very able to help you. If you wanted to take Fab Academy, I feel like this would be a good primer for that, a good pre-Fab Academy. We've actually already had discussions with the Fab Foundation about possibly using some or all of this content as sort of a pre-Fab or Fab Academy for teachers. But this is another really nice feature about our course, is that it's specifically tailored to here, right? So you're going to be taking it at MakeHaven, and so you want to know how to use all the stuff at MakeHaven. And some of the things that we have, like a table saw or welding, those aren't in the standard Fab Academy because not every lab has them, and they really stay focused on just digital fab, which is one of our sections. So we'll hit the breadth of the skills that you can do here, which is I think it's a nice tailoring to what the value this place adds to the community. So.
And Corey, am I correct that although this course is spread out more, that the time commitment over the course of a week is more intense? There's more hours a week for Fab?
Yeah, Fab Academy. So I did while I was also a full-time teacher, and I would do my regular teacher day load teaching high school classes, and then I would spend another 20 to 40 hours a week working on Fab Academy. So like, it was a crazy town thing that I would recommend only if you really want to go after it. You have to have a good reason to do it. I think that there's a place in India where they actually like have a commune and you go live there and do it all in one, like you live at the lab, literally, which is kind of what it feels like even if you're not at Begum Ashram. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Very tempting. I'm trying to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, no, it is one of the things that I really enjoyed watching people do last year, sort of as the instructor, not as a student, is I would watch people make smart decisions about, this is how much time I have this week, and so I'm going to choose a project. This is not the fanciest laser cutting, but it is laser cutting. You know, like you'd explore it in the way that you could with the time that you had available. And we actually make that a point of talking about, it's in the first week's notes, about like how to choose projects wisely so that you have projects that fit the time you have rather than making your projects dictate your time. And so that's an important discussion that we regularly circle back to. I did see somebody make a comment. It might have been a question.
Yeah, they're asking, they don't have a camera, but they're wondering what the ideal applicant for the program would be.
Ooh, I think that really the ideal applicant would just be somebody who wants to make it happen, who's really interested, who's maybe you've got a little bit of experience, but we really want this to be accessible for anyone who's interested and committed to trying all these things. Because the skills of it, you can spin up fairly easily, and we're sort of assuming that most people are going to come in and be brand new in at least some of the areas. So we don't want to make any assumptions that you have a ton of prior experience. But if you do, we have the depth of skill and experience in MakeHaven that we can absolutely help everybody move forward. So like Julia, for example, I know is fantastic at molding and casting. And so I'm going to try my darndest, if she were in it, to come up with something clever to push her a little bit further. And so we've got this whole range that we try and do. And really, I think if there were any markers that I think would make for someone to be really successful, it would be that you're going to be around for the year. And like a little travel is totally fine, but leaving halfway through, we really would love, this is still a fledgling program, we'd still love for people to be with us the whole time. Making sure that you have access to a computer that you can get a hold of. Some of those like basic homeostasis questions I think are going to be the most important things for an applicant, but really it's that the desire to try things is what we want from somebody in this program. So.
I'd like to ask a few questions.
Yeah.
I'm Lisa. I've only been to MakeHaven once. I went there to take a class that was offered in making a cutting board.
Oh, cool.
And it was really a lot of fun. And so just logistically speaking, say if I just stumbled upon this talk you're doing like an hour before it started, so I didn't even know that this program exists. So if I go on to the MakeHaven website and just sanely sit there and read through it all, and will I take in everything I need to know, not only about this 40-week, program, but also everything about MakeHaven?
Yeah, I think that, JR, you look like you've got an answer for that, but I think that if you go to makehaven.org, there's all sorts of info about MakeHaven where we can support you in learning more about the space. Our foundations course is really meant to sort of introduce you to all of these areas, but there is no possible way that we can get you to like full depth in every area over the course of, and like that's, sure you know that, but this is a good chance to explore the whole area, and I definitely am proud of the work that last year's students got to do and really being able to hop from one area to another and to use those skills as they grow and connect over the course of the year. Kate, is that was your experience, right? To connect those skills?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I really enjoyed is that I had a little bit of experience. I was much more comfortable with the laser cutter. I used the laser cutter a good deal. And so for the laser cutting week, I was able to go a little bit deeper and try a few new things. For the soldering and electronics, I was like, my goal is to make a light blink. And that felt really great. So I think you see that the students all had different experience and different levels. But it was also nice, once I learned how to make that light blink, is to come back later on, and I, made some lights that blink on, by code behind some stained glass. So, you build on all of those different things. And there is a lot happening in MakeHaven and a lot of things. I personally am someone who kind of requires a deadline, and so I found it to be really helpful to be like, this thing, I'm gonna do something in this area, and I'm gonna, make something in this area, depending on my comfort level and experience, and celebrate that and deal with the failures, and then just continue on from there and integrate it and grow. So.
And as somebody who went through this program, about how many times a week did you find you were going there and doing it on site versus?
That's a really good question. The on-site work, it really depends on the area, because, at MakeHaven, the goal is to have, free software and things like that. So things run off of programs like Inkscape and things that you can download and work on from home. We were also in all different parts of the pandemic. So sometimes things were limited, and we were able to work with that and kind of shuffle that. But I would say, the office hours that Corey mentioned were probably the biggest times. And there were a few times that either I was in the space or Corey was in the space, and we were like video chatting, to do some support there. But I would say, for you should plan on being in the space, at least for a couple hours every week, because there's going to be a hands-on component. Although we had one student who, had access to some woodworking skills and wasn't able to get in that particular week and use some of her wood stuff at home. So, there's always flexibility. But I think a good estimate would be, a couple hours a week. And I found that when we were all there together during office hours was a good time to plan it if it fits your schedule.
And here's a simple question, just logistically, like you go there and you need to park. I mean, it could be pretty expensive. Like if you're staying for many, many hours, how do you guys deal with that?
So if you go, so there's a couple things. If you go to makehaven.org/visit, there's info on where there are free lots around or different kind of options like that.
Okay.
What I would often do, because often I'm carrying big things and pieces and I want the convenience, is there is a garage on that same block that gives MakeHaven members, the New Haven Park group has given us a discount, and so it ends up being $1 an hour to park in that garage. That way you don't have to move your car every couple hours or worry about any of that kind of stuff. And so that was the way that I kept it most reasonable. Because I would certainly sometimes be like, I'm just going to go in for an hour, and then I was like, it's been 4 hours. So
I stay a long time, right?
Jared posted a good point on Sunday. The meters don't count, so you can park right out front. It's part of why office hours are on Sunday, just for practicality. And then we can also give you the sweet tips when we're not on a recorded video about where we like to park for free. Just so that not
and
everybody.
we're also on public transportation. We have a bike area, so a lot of people will also utilize that.
Yep.
And just to the question we're asking about, where can you learn about what's at MakeHaven? Under resources on the website, if you go to equipment, there's a big list of all the equipment, and you can click into any of the ones that you're interested in. Most of them will have a video about that equipment. And so there is a lot that you can do to learn about the resources and equipment at MakeHaven just from home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, when I moved to Connecticut, and just to build an antidote in while someone's thinking about their next question, I moved to Connecticut the summer of last year, and at home I watched all the videos, looked through all the equipment, and then came in, and in a fury I got a ridiculous number of badges, got approved on tools that I had learned in a past shop to use, but then needed to get the stamp of approval at MakeHaven. So you can do a lot at home and really build up the skill set, or maybe make design files there and then bring them in. So if you're clever about it, you can really optimize. I think we had somebody, I think Olgata lived pretty far away, but he would strategically do a ton of design work at home and then come in and really optimize his time when he was physically in the space. So there's some cool tricks like that. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns? Oh boy.
All right, I think going once, going twice. All right, I think we have concluded the question and answer period. If you find that you'd like to ask a question more privately or think of it later, the email for MakeHaven, you can do info@MakeHaven, or you can email Corey.rice@makehaven.org. And those are ways you can follow up with questions. And we will be posting the link to the application and to the foundation website on the MakeHaven homepage and in the menu. So you can follow up and learn more there. Thank you for coming, and I'm excited to see what comes of this next year, building the foundations for fabrication.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Hope to meet you soon.
Thank you.
Yeah.